Hi everybody, my name is Hester, and this is the presentation of my Capstone Research Arts Advocacy Promoting Policy Change. But before I begin, I would just like to thank all the people who have helped me throughout this process, including my faculty mentors, Dr. Forstier, Doug Hanby, and Ms. Salter. And I would also just like to extend a thank you to the rest of the Interdisciplinary Studies Department. And before I officially begin, I would like to show you my first costume from my first dance recital when I was 3 years old. And ever since then, I can never forget running off stage after that performance and being so excited about performing and being so ready for the next time that I could go on stage and perform because I loved to dance, and I still do. And growing up, I was so fortunate to have every opportunity available to me to pursue that passion. And this costume is just one from a closet in my house overflowing with old dance costumes from both me and my sister. And somebody else, like my mom, for example, might look at this closet and see a total mess. But I look at this closet and I see these costumes, and to me, they represent every opportunity that I was so fortunate to have. And unfortunately, not every child is as lucky as I was. And there are many children that don't have the opportunity to engage in the arts. Therefore, I've made it my goal to turn my passion into my purpose and become an advocate for the arts so that every child has the opportunity to become a dancer or a musician or a visual artist or an actor. And this study is one step towards that goal. In order to build upon existing research, I was looking at the benefits of the arts, specifically dance, and I wanted to look at the political implications of those benefits. So, in addition to looking at the literature on this topic, I volunteered to teach dance at my local elementary school's summer learning program. I also examined the availability of the arts in schools, and because there's currently a lack of funding and support dedicated to sustaining arts education programs, whether it be dance or music, visual arts, or theater. Specifically, dance is reported to be the least offered of all arts disciplines in schools throughout the country. So this study focuses on arts advancement as a whole, but in terms of the analysis, focuses specifically on dance. To narrow the investigation of the study to the insights of a single discipline would severely reduce the scope of the study, and it would not adequately address all factors necessary to discuss in advocacy work. So I use insights from the disciplines of political science, sociology, and dance. Political science was critical to understanding the context of this research. I looked at policies surrounding education and how that might influence decision-making in schools. I also needed to understand the workings of the political arena in order to understand how policy can be a potential solution to this problem. Sociology was critical to understanding the observations from the dance program. I used qualitative research methods of studying people and phenomena, and I was particularly interested in the concept of the social construction of behavior in order to understand that the observations from the dance programs exist in a larger context. Dance was critical to the implementation of this study. I wouldn't have been able to volunteer to teach if I wasn't a dancer or an artist myself. And I wanted to look at this issue from the perspective of an artist to really understand the importance of this type of research. I used 3 bridging strategies to integrate the insights of these disciplines. The first was advancing through checks and balances. To protect against undue bias, I wanted to use the insights of all the disciplines to understand the observations and the findings in the literature. I didn't want to let any of my preconceived opinions about the arts or ideas about dance dictate the results of the study, but I wanted to let the literature and the observations speak for themselves. I also used bridging the explanation-action gap in combination with organization. These bridging strategies organized the disciplines in a way that created a causal map of insights that defined the problem and offered a solution. So while dance and sociology can explain the problem, political science in the form of advocacy and policy is a potential solution. I also used building complex and multi-causal explanations in combination with extension. So this research builds multi-causal explanations to consider the observations of the dance program in a wide context. I wanted to extend insights from sociology to dance, like the social construction of behavior, to understand that what I was observing might not be singularly the result of the dance program. The concept of arts advocacy is the common ground established through this interdisciplinary research. I used multiple disciplines to implement and interpret the study, and another discipline to advocate and plan action around the results. So that research and the action taken encompasses arts advocacy and is the common ground of this research. The methodology for the study can be broken down into two broad sections. The first being a literature review that examines the benefits of the arts in terms of academic, intrinsic, and skills criteria. I also looked at examples of successful outreach programs and the availability of dance programs in schools throughout the country. I looked at background on education policies and barriers to providing arts education. The second main part of the study was my volunteer experience at the YMCA Easton Elementary School Summer Learning Program. There, I taught dance lessons throughout the duration of the program to 20 second and third graders once a week. I wanted to make observations about the students' growth and change, specifically in relation to behavior and motivation and their happiness, to see if there's any connection between what I saw and what other people have measured. And what I found was that participation in the arts really does have these benefits on students. High arts participation in general leads to higher academic performance and high performance on the SAT and standardized tests in general. Participation in dance specifically leads to the development of creative thinking skills, self-confidence, discipline, persistence, and increased school attendance. I learned that the arts are a core academic subject under No Child Left Behind, like math and reading, but the arts are disappearing from our schools. And they're cut for a number of reasons, including inadequate funding, federal education mandates, education reform, and lack of accountability standards for the arts. So with increased instructional time dedicated to traditional subjects to meet accountability standards in place, instruction time for the arts is sacrificed. The current system is somewhat reliant on standardized testing, and this discourages schools from straying outside the tested curriculum. And similar to the literature, I noted several positive observations in my experience teaching at the summer learning program. Over the course of 6 weeks, the children behaved better. They were disrupting the lessons less frequently. They were more motivated to participate. At the end of the first lesson, I only had 7 out of 20 students still participating at the end of the dance lesson, but at the end of the last week, I had 19 out of 20 students still participating. They were more focused. They learned how to complete a high energy activity like jumping or an exercise that requires skipping, and they learned how to keep their focus on that activity and not on turning it into a game or something else that wasn't what we were working on. They were more confident. The students learned that they could do things that they had no idea that they could do because none of them had experienced dance before in this way. They were more disciplined in that they went home and they practiced the exercise in between lessons. And they were supportive, encouraging of each other. And what's important to me is that they were happy. They were smiling and they were laughing, and they all wanted, every single student wanted to know where they could take dance lessons in the future and wanted to know if I would be back the next summer to teach. So while these benefits are profound, one of the most striking things in the literature was that 97% of elementary school students do not have access to dance through their school. Only 3% of students have access to dance in their school. And what I would like to see is this number switched, so that 97% of students in the future will have access to dance through their school. And there's a couple steps that advocates are taking to ensure that the arts, specifically dance, don't disappear. This past semester, I was an intern for Americans for the Arts, which is the leading nonprofit for arts advancement in the country. And I had the most amazing opportunity to work alongside experts in the field of arts education and arts advocacy. And these are a few of the steps that they're currently working on and are working towards in the future. At the local level, it's important for teachers and artists and schools and arts organizations to form partnerships to learn how to integrate the arts into the existing curriculum. So while a lot of schools don't have the infrastructure to implement an arts-specific program, teachers might be able to learn how to incorporate the arts as an instrument to further learning in another academic subject. Americans for the Arts also recently worked on with several organizations, artists, teachers, schools, everything, to revise the National Core Arts Standards, and they're encouraging states to adopt these standards as a commitment to providing quality arts education in their schools. At the national level, advocates are asking for more public funding for education and for arts organizations like the National Endowment for the Arts. The National Endowment for the Arts is just one organization that works to help arts education in the form of grants to schools and organizations. And in conclusion, what this all comes back to for me is turning my passion for dance into my purpose for advocacy. I want to make sure that every child has the opportunity to experience the same growth that I have through the arts. And I want to make sure that no child misses an opportunity to engage in the arts, whether it's dance, or music, or theater, or visual arts. This research has been my starting place on that journey, and it's only the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you. Once again, plenty of time for questions. So let me lead off by carrying forward Jill's question from 2 talks ago. As you enter a master's program in public policy, how easy is it to maintain this focus and the integration of several disciplines?
Yeah. At UMBC, there's an education track for public policy, so I will be pursuing that track. And I hope that through research and investigation of further policies that I can take this arts education lens to that program. So unfortunately, there's not an arts education public policy program just yet, but I'm hoping that, like interdisciplinary studies, I can kind of tailor my approach to my grad work to reflect this cause. Mr. McConnell.
Thank you. Did you compare, so you're looking at arts advocacy. In the slide where 97% of students in elementary public education don't have access to dance, were you able to compare, is there a comparative statistic to, let's say, a music program? Is it all the arts being slashed at the elementary level, or is it dance specifically that's being cut or just non-existent?
All the arts are being slashed overall, but dance is definitely the least offered. In some schools and in some districts, they might be able to offer music education more frequently than dance just because there's certain barriers with dance. There's more music teachers available, and having the dedicated space for dance lessons is a little bit more difficult than for music lessons. So while the arts overall are being cut, there's barriers specific to dance that are making them less offered than other arts disciplines. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
In that same slide, that statistic that you showed us, was that including only elementary schools that offer dance as part of the school curriculum, or were you looking at after-school programs and free programs and other stuff like that also?
That included after-school programs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think a lot of initiatives that are being pushed for the youth right now in our country are like the get up and go out and play sort of initiatives. Do you see that something that could be, I think, dance specifically as a category in the arts? Something that partner with that. Do you see anything about that?
I think that there's a lot of opportunities to partner with initiatives like that, and I think it's important to have schools partner with local organizations, not just arts organizations, so that we can all work together to kind of improve the lives of our students. So I think there's definitely a big opportunity there.
I think a similar question I have based in part on my experience as an elementary junior high student, where certain dance components were incorporated into the physical education program, and it seemed like our teachers got training in square dancing and like this bamboo dance thing. Did you look at whether or not like what's happened to dance components of the physical education curriculum and where that fits into this issue?
Yeah, I think that fits into the integration approach that not only in phys ed, but in other subjects like social studies or like math or like reading, there's an opportunity to integrate the arts. But unfortunately, because schools are becoming reliant on standardized testing, and with a lot of the education reform that's happening right now, that's going to further that attention to the traditional subjects, and it takes away from teachers' opportunities to pursue those integration techniques. And I never had that opportunity in my school. We didn't do square dancing or anything like that, so I'm not sure about the availability of like phys ed programs specifically, but I know that there's a lot of opportunity to increase that sort of integration approach, if that answers your question. Yeah.
When you think about the availability of more magnet schools with arts, like if public schools are getting rid of the arts, what if there was more of an increase in magnet schools with dance programs and art programs?
Yeah, I think that any opportunity is a good one, but I think that because public schools are such a popular choice for families, that it's important to bring the arts to those schools specifically, because that might be the only opportunity that a student could have to start their experience in the arts.
Would you say that Common Core standards provide more opportunities of integrating arts or less?
It's hard to say because the Common Core is so new. That was something that I was looking into, but some people believe that there might be more opportunity for the arts to be integrated because it's an opportunity in reform to kind of rework the curriculum, but opponents believe that maybe because this becomes so reliant on the PARCC assessment associated with the Common Core, that it might deter teachers further from incorporating the arts. But it's still it's such a fresh initiative that it's hard to tell. I think this is the first year of the PARCC assessment, so. Yeah.
I just have a quick question. In your list of all the benefits that students can receive through the dance program, is either through the literature or your own experience, have you ever observed working together in groups or childhood obesity and things like that? Did the literature ever go in that direction in terms of like advocating dance programs to teach young children to work together or to solve even health problems?
Yeah, there actually isn't a large focus in the literature right now on solving health problems like obesity, and I think that that's something that could be looked into for future research. But in my experience with this summer learning program specifically, I did see the kids come together and learn how to work as a group really well, because while they started and they had their individual friends and they had their individual groups within this group of children, by the end, every single student would clap or cheer for another student when they performed something well, and they learned how to act as a group rather than just as their individuals within that group. So I think that is a way of position for research to go in the future as well. Yeah.
Mary, when you talk to legislators in Annapolis or you go to Washington and talk to members of Congress, from their perspective, what's the biggest barrier that you've got to overcome to be successful?
I think funding for arts programs is one of the biggest barriers, because there's just very little room in the budget at that level and at the school level for the arts to be incorporated. And I think that there's certain ways to overcome that. I think that arts integration is a way for, if schools don't have enough funding or there isn't enough funding for education, that's an approach they can take to overcome that hurdle. But I think that arts funding is the main one.
Okay, well, I think that brings us right on time. If we say thank you once again, and once again before you clap, we have departmental honours, this time from Ms. Carrie Silver.
Thank you.
Congratulations on all of that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.